If you are homeschooling a toddler or a preschooler, this is how I would approach reading. Hello, my name is Shashan and I am the co-founder of Little Hands Literacy LLC. And today I'm going to be sharing some fun, easy, play-based, hands-on pre-reading activities for your little learners ages 1 to 5. So if you are new to the channel, first, welcome. This channel is all things early literacy, play-based, hands-on learning, and homeschool tips, advice, challenges, all the things. So if that sounds good to you and you'd like to be a part of the community, please do not forget to like and subscribe. And if you find this video beneficial and informative, please feel free to share with any homeschooling families or early ed educators that you may know. So before I jump in, I do just want to start by saying many reading skills develop way before a child begins reading. So reading skills begin with listening, talking, engaging, connecting, moving, and of course, playing. And so I do just want to start with that. I also want to note that during the different segments, I will be discussing some skills that you may see emerging from your little ones during that particular developmental phase. Know that all of our little learners develop at different rates, which is one of the things that makes them beautiful, is how unique they are. So know that your little one may have already started developing a skill or may not be showing that skill just yet. That's completely okay. That's completely normal. These are just kind of general to give you kind of a place to start. So let's jump in. So we begin with our toddlers, ages 12 to 24 months. During this stage, our focus is listening skills, vocabulary development, and print awareness. So some things you may see your little one doing at this stage is becoming more interested in books, maybe pointing to pictures when you're reading the books, and beginning to name familiar objects. So some activities that we can do to support them at this stage is having a little book basket with lots of board books available for them to begin to explore, maybe even chew on. But we really want to just get them really familiar with playing and handling books, and obviously reading some of these books to them throughout the day. When you are reading to them, another activity you can do is begin to point to pictures and naming the pictures for them. This will support with their vocabulary development. Another activity that supports early writing skills is coloring. So at this time, you can begin to maybe introduce some chunky crayons and just let them go to town. Early writing skills begin with those little scribbles and them just kind of figuring out the tools of writing, one of them being crayons. And last but not least, another activity you can do is beginning to introduce more books that have action words. And so as you're reading the books, maybe even acting out some of the action words with them, having them jump around and act it out for you. Not only are you supporting their vocabulary during this activity, but you're really encouraging a love for reading because it's fun and it's engaging. For our little learners ages 2 to 3, you want to focus on developing their oral language, comprehension, and still supporting them with their print awareness. So some things you may see your little learner doing during this phase is they are going to be using more short phrases, answering simple questions, and they love repetition at this phase. So some ways to support them is beginning some pretend play talk. So if they have a little play kitchen, engaging with them while they're cooking you a little meal, or maybe playing restaurant or doctor, and just really encouraging their oral language and vocabulary development by having conversation with them and asking questions. Another way you can support them is continuing to read daily, and while you're reading to them, really emphasize those story sound effects, which they really get a kick out of during this time, and also asking find it questions. So where is the dog? Where is the little girl? What is the little boy doing? So beginning to really engage them to see where they are in their comprehension. You can also continue to support them by introducing Play-Doh. And so I know that can be a little triggering for some educators and parents, But Play-Doh is such an important tool because it really supports them with building their hand strength, which is something they're going to need when they begin writing. And so encouraging them to roll the Play-Doh up into little balls or little snakes and just allowing them to free play with it and maybe even beginning to form some shapes and letters if they're there. And last but not least, another thing that you can do with them is continuing to encourage songs and rhymes. And so this really supports them because it really allows them to tune into sounds, the rhythm of the songs, the rhyming words, and this will also support them on their reading journey. For our preschoolers ages 3 to 4, we now want to focus on phonological awareness, which is being able to hear and manipulate sounds, and also their comprehension. So at this age, you may notice your little one is beginning to explore and play with language more. They may be able to retell some of those favorite stories that they like to hear again and again. And you might even notice that they are beginning to recognize some of their letters. So to encourage them, you can begin with some letter and letter sound scavenger hunts. So hiding letters around the living room and having them find them. You could even show them some household items or some toys, hiding a few, and then giving them the sound, the beginning sound of the toy, and having them find that toy to support them with their letter recognition and letter sound support. Another thing you can begin doing is supporting them with retelling stories with toys. So maybe having them retell some of those stories that they love to hear again and again with their dolls, making sure to emphasize a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can also support them with some pre-writing skills by beginning to play with pre-writing paths. So whether that's drawing little dotted lines or zigzags, maybe even using tape on the floor and having them use toy cars to follow along. Another way to support with pre-writing is continuing some fine motor skills with their name activities. So having their name, and whether it's tracing them with their finger, once again using little stickers maybe to outline the letters in their names, all of this will support them with their pre-writing skills. And last but not least, you want to support them with those sound activities to help them with recognizing and manipulating sounds. And a great game to play at this stage are rhyming games. So when you're in the car on the way to the grocery store or on the way home from activities, you can begin some rhyming activities. And if your little one's having trouble, that's okay. You can model it first, and then eventually they'll begin to pick it up. Last but not least, our little learners ages 4 to 5 are preschoolers and kindergartners. So here we really want to focus on phonics foundations, sequencing, and building their confidence as readers. So you may notice that at this stage, they may be able to recognize most, if not all, of their letters and some of their letter sounds. They may begin to blend some of their sounds together to read basic words, and they may have an overall interest in words and reading now. So to support them, one thing we can begin to do is story creation. So allowing them to play with their dolls and their toys and create stories with them. This really supports them not only with building their imagination, but also with continuing to sequence, coming up with a beginning, middle, and end for their story, vocabulary development, and it's also a pre-writing skill because writing begins with the idea. So supporting them with that creativity will really support them with coming up with those ideas later on. Another thing you can begin doing is supporting them with building words. So maybe even using a sensory bin and having a little mat. I always suggest you have the vowel there if you're building consonant, vowel, consonant words, little CVC words. So already having the vowel there, and they just have some consonants in their sensory bin that they can pull out and put one at the beginning, one at the end, and then blending the word. Yes, some of the words they build may be nonsense words, and that's okay, because then you can really tell if they're blending the word or if it's a word they just automatically recognize from books, and even point out, you made a nonsense word. Is that a real word? Another thing you can support them with is having a little environmental print station. So a station where they can go to create lists, to write little letters, maybe even to create a menu now for their little play restaurant. This not only supports their writing skills, but it also lets them see the purpose behind writing. And they'll really enjoy doing it because as far as they're concerned, they're just playing. So these are some ideas and some suggestions that I have for our preschoolers and kindergarteners ages 4 to 5. So those were just a few fun, easy activities that you can do with your little learners ages 1 to 5. We wanted to not only keep them fun and engaging, but also simple. No prep. All it requires is a little bit of your time and attention. If you would like a simple downloadable PDF that outlines these activities by age and adds a few more, please click the link below so that you can grab your freebie that has all of the information there. I greatly appreciate your time and you watching this video. Please do not forget to like and subscribe so that you can join the community and get more videos that we post in the future. Thanks again.